Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Senator Hagel, for joining us today and for answering the questions that have been asked to you so far. I'd like to talk to you for a few minutes about Israel. Israel is, I believe, America's most important ally, certainly in the Middle East and in many respects in the entire world. A lot of people in this body are concerned, quite appropriately, about making sure that that alliance remains strong, about making sure that our interests as Americans are protected abroad. And a lot of us feel like one of the best ways of protecting American national security is through that alliance in the Middle East. On April 12, 2002, there was a Palestinian terrorist who detonated a bomb in downtown Jerusalem, killing 6 Israelis and wounding, I believe, about 100 others. On that day, while you were still serving the U.S. Senate, you gave a speech on the Senate floor, made a couple of comments that I'd like to discuss with you and ask you a little bit about. In one segment of the speech, you said, "We understand Israel's right to defend itself. We're committed to that. We've helped Israel defend that right. We will continue to do so, but it should not be at the expense of the Palestinian people, innocent Palestinian people and innocent Israelis who are paying a high price." Some who have read that have reacted with concern that this may be indicative of a feeling on your part that there might be some moral equivalency between, on the one hand, Israel's exercise of its right to defend itself, and on the other hand, Palestinian terrorism. Do you believe that there is a moral equivalency between these two things?
Oh, absolutely not, Senator.
Do you understand how others might read this statement in such a way that could leave them with that impression?
I do.
And how do you respond to it? In other words, do Palestinians, let's say those Palestinians who have engaged in acts of terrorism, perhaps in retaliation against Israel for Israel defending itself, do they have a legitimate gripe?
Well, terrorism can never be justified under any circumstances. And
but is their grievance legitimate?
The Palestinians?
Yeah, the Palestinians who decide to strap a bomb onto themselves and detonate it or otherwise engage in acts of terror. Do they have a legitimate grievance that they're expressing?
Well, they have grievances.
Are those
a lot of
grievances
people have
legitimate?
grievances, but not a justification for terrorism and killing innocent people, never.
Are they on par with the grievances that innocent Israelis have when they become the victims of violent acts?
I don't think you can judge whether it's Israelis or Palestinians or anybody in the world in separating innocent victims of terrorism.
Well, I think you can in some circumstances, can't you? I mean,
not victims.
For heaven's sakes, though. Okay, maybe not victims, but can't you? And indeed, must you not judge when it comes to one group of people who may at least be willing to recognize the other group of people's right to exist?
Absolutely. In fact, I'm clearly on the record on that point. In fact, in 2006, there was the Anti-Palestinian Terrorist Act that I voted for. And there are a number of other resolutions, acts, votes, speeches I've made. In my book, I have said unequivocally, Hezbollah, Hamas specifically, they must renounce terrorism. And first, they must accept Israel's right to exist as a Jewish homeland, respect the borders, protect the borders. Absolutely, I've made that very clear.
Okay. Now, later on in the same speech, you asked a question. You referred to the fact that we really need to develop peace in the Middle East, and you asked the question, who guarantees this peace? You then continue by asking another question. If, in fact, we expect Israel to pull back to their pre-1967 borders, who guarantees that peace? Does this, Senator Hagel, reflect sentiment on your part that that is a legitimate way of solving the peace process, of bringing about peace in Israel, in the Middle East, is by asking Israel to withdraw to its pre-1967 borders?
No, not at all. What I said was, as you just quoted me, who guarantees the security of Israel's borders? I mean, Israel's borders must be secure. That's part of the fundamentals of the Quartet Principles of 2006. In fact, the UN resolutions, 242, and I think 337, other resolutions, that's paramount, the guarantee of the security of Israel and its borders.
I understand that part of the question related to how we bring about that peace, and I want to get back to that in a minute. But another part of the question started from the premise that Israel would be withdrawing to its pre-1967 borders. Do you view that as a tenable solution? Do you believe such borders are militarily defensible?
I think that's all negotiable. I mean, the Quartet Principles of 2006, which President Bush laid down on a two-state solution, all of those issues have to be resolved. Land for peace, trading land, all those issues are final status issues. They're absolutely key to the future of Israel, or before Israel can agree to anything.
So you're saying that you might describe a resolution of this crisis involving withdrawal to the pre-1967 borders as perhaps one among several tenable solutions?
Well, it's part of what's been talked about and defined in, as I said, the 2006 Quartet Principles and UN resolutions, that is part of a final status set of issues that have to be resolved. The United States, no other country can impose that on Israel. That is a negotiable issue, but it's been out there, and that remains to be dealt with in negotiations.
Is it one that you think the United States should encourage?
I would encourage peace and a secure, safe Israel. That's what I think most of us would want to see.
Okay. Now, in 2009, you made a statement suggesting that U.S. ground troops should be sent to that part of the world and installed as UN peacekeepers in a, quote, non-militarized Palestinian state, close quote. Is this something you stand behind today? Is this an approach that you think is appropriate?
Senator, I don't have the facts behind me, in front of me, but I don't think that that was a recommendation I was making. If I recall my comments, and you may be able to give me exactly the comments, were in the context of how do you secure Israel's border? Who secures Israel's border? For example, General Brent Scowcroft has suggested at times maybe this is a peacekeeping role for NATO. That was what that was all about.
Hey, Senator, my time's expired. I need to ask you one more question. I understand that you have made a statement indicating that there is no justification for Palestinian suicide bombers, but that there is also no justification for Israel to, quote, keep Palestinians caged up like animals, close quote. Did you say that, and if so, do you stand by that statement today?
Well, I said it, and I don't remember the context or when I said it.
Do you believe today that Israel keeps Palestinians caged up like animals?
No. If I had an opportunity to edit that, like many things I've said, I would like to go back and change the words in the meeting. No, it was, I think, in a larger context. I've said many things over many years. It was a larger context of the frustration and what's happening, which is not in Israel's interest, to find ways that we can help bring peace and security to Israel. If I had a chance to go back and edit it, I would. I regret that I used those words.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Senator.